Hi everyone, welcome to Smart City Institute Japan's webinar called Global Perspectives on Smart Cities. I'm Nagumo, your host, Executive Managing Director of Smart City Institute Japan. Today is actually day 2 of the week-long series we are running today, which is called European Smart City Inspired Week. And we have 3 distinct speakers today for the discussion titled Open Source and Global Standards for Smart Cities of the Future. So let me first invite our 3 distinct speakers today. Mr. Ulrich Ahle, CEO of FIWARE Foundation. Hi, Ulrich.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. The second, Dr. Yasunori Mochizuki, NEC Fellow, also Director of FIWARE Foundation.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm very much excited to join today's discussion.
Hi, Mochizuki-san. Number 3, Mr. Hal Seki, Representative Director and the Founder of Code for Japan.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. And our game plan today is to have 2 presentations first. First by Ulrich for about 20 minutes. And then followed by Sixon's presentation, 50 minutes or so forth. And after that, we're going to have a discussion with all members. For viewers, I would encourage all of you to send a message, questions through the chat box. We'll pick them up after the presentation of the 2 distinct speakers. Okay, without further ado, let's move on to presentation. So I will hand it over to Ulrich. Your show time.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will share my screen, which you should be able to see now.
That's perfect.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to talk about how open source and global standards can help to create smart cities of the future. And not only in the future, but also in reality, because our new digital life will gravitate more and more around data and, as we call it, context information. So information describing what is happening around us, where, when, and why. And today, very often, this data are organized in silos. Yeah, you see here a data silo of smart cities, of smart water, of smart energy, and very often also within these silos, there are thick walls without the ability to get access to data, to exchange data. This is because often the interfaces don't fit to each other, the data models are not open, or there is not sufficient trust in providing access to the data I have created, I have owned, or which are describing what's happening around me. And our mission at FIWARE is to break down these data silos and to make data accessible for everyone, to make data available on platforms and use this data to, on the one side, increase the quality of life of the people living in the cities, and not only in the cities, but also in the rural areas. And on the other hand, to reduce the cost of operating a city, a community, an organization. And especially projects which are able to address both sides, increasing the quality of life, reducing the cost, have the potential to be really successful and sustainable. And while getting access to this data, when capturing data, as shown here on the left side, from the real world, we are representing this data in a digital representation of the real world. And we call this a digital twin. So the digital twin of the real world. And once this data are available, there are functionalities in this case within the open source FIWARE ecosystem to process, to analyze, to monitor this data, to update the data in the digital twin, and then to provide information back to the real world to allow, for example, decision makers to take fact-based and educated decisions, or even to actuate out of the digital twin into the real world. And I always use an example of an autonomously driving car, which is operated in the digital twin, in the digital world, but finally is driving around in the real world. So there are actuations out of the digital twin into the real world. And let's now answer the question, what is FIWARE? FIWARE is a framework of open source platform components. So two important messages and information here. It is open source, so it's available for everyone for free forever. And second, the FIWARE Foundation is providing software components. We call this software components or the software building blocks generic enablers. And out of this generic enablers, the FIWARE context broker is the most important one. On the left side, we see a very simplified architecture of a FIWARE-based solution with the context broker in the center. And then at the bottom or southbound interfaces to get access to this data, and on top or northbound functionalities like business intelligence or artificial intelligence, big data analytics, and so on to process, analyze, and visualize this data. And to harmonize the interfaces and to get access to the data, we have developed in the FIWARE ecosystem over the last years a standard interface, a standard API, as it is called, an application programmer's interface. And this is called NGSI, Next Generation Service Interface. So two important elements out of the FIWARE ecosystem to be remembered from this slide: the context broker as the core software component and NGSI as the standard interface. And it is also important to mention here that the FIWARE Foundation, we are a charitable non-for-profit organization working for the public good. We are not providing complete products. So you don't get a smart city platform from FIWARE, but you get software components. And either end users directly or partners in our ecosystem are using these components to build platforms and solutions. Like with Lego stones, you can put different Lego stones together to build a car or to build a house. And the advantage of Lego stones is that all fit together. And similar is with FIWARE, because all FIWARE-based solutions are using NGSI as the standard interface. And this very simplified architecture we see here on the left is, in a more detailed version, our reference architecture for smart cities. So we see again the context broker in the center. We see this NGSI-based interfaces to get access to data wherever they are coming from. So from cameras, from sensors deployed in networks, from drones, from other IT systems, or from social media. Very often important information describing what's happening around us. And I will have an example on this later. Or also coming from existing, already installed solutions, smart solutions within a city, which were originally created as a silo. And also here we have instruments to get access to this data, make this data available on a platform, and then use, as I mentioned before, artificial intelligence, big data algorithms, workflow management, geo-information. So geo-referencing is very important to know where have the data been created, and also to publicize this data. So this is the FIWARE reference architecture. And just to mention, the FIWARE context broker is in the meantime recommended by the European Commission to the member states to be used as a standard building block when creating digital solutions. This is within a program called Connecting Europe Facility. And NGSI has been published as the standard interface for context information management in smart cities by ETSI, which is one of the large global standardization organizations. And I should add this to this slide. I forgot to do it. In June of this year, also the Bureau of Indian Standards adopted NGSI LD as a standard interface for smart cities, in that case in India. And with this standard interface, we are answering the question how to exchange data. So how to break down these data silos. And in the center, you see a program which started under the name of the Frontrunner Smart Cities program, already also 3 years ago, initially with 10 cities, 8 from Europe, plus La Plata from Argentina and Montevideo from Uruguay. And this program has the target, and not only the target, it did it to create standard data models. So to answer the question, which data to be transferred when opening this data silos. And looking at this program, the Smart Data Models Initiative, you find it also completely open source on GitHub. In the meantime, we have more than 600 data models there, not only in the area of smart cities, but also in agri-food, in water, in energy, and other domains. And this is brand new since this week. It started in 4 languages, and since this week, we also added Italian and Japanese. So you can find the whole description of this, in the meantime, more than 600 data models on GitHub under Smart Data Models to be used when creating digital and smart cities also in Japan. And I mentioned before the Bureau of Indian Standards, and India has created the India Urban Data Exchange Platform. That's what IODX stands for. And also India joined this initiative. You can see it here, which was originally created by FIWARE and TM Forum. IODX joined it earlier this year. And in June of this year, another organization joined the activity, and this is called the Open and Agile Smart Cities Organization, OASC. And also some Japanese cities are active in this organization, which is a kind of sister organization of FIWARE. Yeah, and all these ingredients, to name them again: open source software building blocks, standard interfaces, so standard APIs, standard data models, and reference architectures. These 4 elements are used, as I mentioned before, either by end users, by cities directly when they have sufficient competence and capacity, or by IT partners, by system integrators within the FIWARE ecosystem. And in the meantime, we have more than 190 powered by FIWARE platforms and solutions. And again, all are able to work together because they're using the same interfaces and the same APIs. And let me give you some examples. For example, NEC, the Cloud City Operations Center, or the Urban OS from NEC is based on FIWARE technology, using the context broker, supporting this standard APIs, and NEC has in the first years been successful in winning European cities based on this technology, like Santander in Spain, Lisbon in Portugal, Bristol in England. So some of the real lighthouse, digital lighthouse cities in Europe. And started now also in Japan. For example, here you see a picture from Takamatsu, the city disaster management center, which is supported by the Cloud City Operations Center of NEC. And there are several others, roughly a dozen other cities in Japan, which are working together with NEC in this case. So this is one example of FIWARE-based platforms. There is roughly 1 dozen, so another 12 comparable platforms, comparable to the NEC platform. And on top of these platforms, there are smart solutions, addressing the different life areas of the people. For example, when it comes to smart parking, here a solution which is using camera technologies to identify free parking lots via image recognition and providing this information into an app or directly into the navigation system in the car, guiding me not to my target address, but to the closest free parking lot. And at least in some European cities, up to 30% of the inner city traffic is traffic searching for free parking lots. And if we are able to avoid at least part of this traffic searching, parking searching traffic, we can do a lot for our environment and for the people living in the cities. Another example here is from a Dutch city called Eindhoven. That's the mayor of Eindhoven, and he had one critical street in the past called Stratum signed. The street looks like this, 1 kilometer long, 55 bars, a lot of alcohol and a high crime rate in the past. And you know that in Europe, we are very, very sensitive when it comes to personal data. You maybe have heard of GDPR, the General Data Protection Rules. So we need to be very careful when installing solutions like this. For example, in this street, cameras have been installed, not doing any face recognition, so no personal data, but analyzing the moving patterns of the people. Second, microphones, again, not doing speech recognition, no personal data, but sound analytics. How loud is the sound, the aggressivity level of the sound, the location of the sound. And third, social media analytics, analyzing what's actually published in Facebook, in Twitter, with relation to this street. And by combining this information, comparing it with historical data and using artificial intelligence, the system is able not only to identify critical situations in the street, but even to predict them. And this information is given to the police officer in the control room, and the right pictures are put in front of him. And he's now able, or she, to either send proactively police people there or to increase the level of light in that part of the street. Eindhoven is also headquarters of Philips. I think Philips is also known in Japan. And the police officer is able to dim down or to increase the level of light. And in more than 80% of the cases, it is sufficient to increase the level of light to de-escalate an upcoming critical situation, which was identified by the system. And it is proven that the crime rate has been reduced by more than 50%, that the damages in the bars went down, that there are less people transported to hospital, that the police people are used more efficiently, and that the image of the street and the whole city has been increased. Another example, and I have to look a bit at the time, so I'll speed up a bit. Flood warning system here in the city of Montevideo in Uruguay in South America. Installed sensors, connecting them via LoRaWAN, standard business. I will skip this. This is interesting. So due to heavy rain situations, they have quite often flooded situations in the street, in the city. And what they did is they used this sensor data I mentioned before, added soil hydrological and meteorological models. So the water consumption capability of the soil, the weather forecast, and what they call hyperlocal data from the citizens. They have intelligence apps, and using again artificial intelligence and this sensor data, the system is able to create prediction models. and the citizens get an personalized warning. So their apps are intelligent. For example, they identify where have I parked my car, and I get a message with 90% probability there will be 1 meter of water within the next 20 minutes at the place where your car is parked. So better remove it to another place. Last example is an example from Badajoz. Badajoz is the largest province in Spain, square kilometer wise, but only a few citizens over there. Badajoz itself is the provincial capital with a bit more than 100,000 people. And then they have a lot of villages and cities of 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. And they said it doesn't make sense that every city creates its own digital platform. So they have created one FIWARE platform, in that case based on Thinking Cities from Telefonica, which is also a FIWARE-based platform, have 29 different smart solutions on top of it. And these solutions for smart waste management, smart lighting, smart water, smart tourism, and so on, can be activated by the different cities. Then they have on top of the platform, business intelligence, big data analytics for all the cities. They have a KPI system. So the cities build up trust between each other, and they are comparing themselves now based on KPIs. Where is one city better than the other? Where can one city learn from the other? They have an open data portal for the citizens and companies within the cities, and different dashboards for operational people and for political decision makers to allow them to do fact-based decisions. Yeah, and we as FIWARE bringing in all this competence and also the building blocks into an organization which is called the Data Spaces Business Alliance, the Data Spaces Business Alliance. And you can see me here together with the CEOs of 3 different other organizations. Anna is from BDVA. The guy standing here is me. Lars Nagel is from the International Data Spaces Association, and Francesco Bonfiglio on the right is the CEO of Gaia-X. And we are working very close together with Gaia-X. We are a day 1 member of Gaia-X. And within this Data Spaces Business Alliance, we are bringing together the forces of more than 1,000 member organizations to create data spaces based on a federated cloud infrastructure as an alternative to the big so-called hyperscalers coming from America, coming from China, here based on a European ecosystem, based on European values. And the topic of data sovereignty is very important. We have created a 100-day plan. So this is a brand new initiative. We have created a 100-day plan to create a common reference technology framework, to do a radar, and also go into the deployment of this standard interoperable data spaces based on a federated cloud infrastructure using the Gaia-X instruments. Yeah, to close, why are all these end users, why are all these cities going this way for open source and standard-based solutions? Because the basic software, this in the FIWARE case, the generic enablers are available for free for everyone forever. We have not only one single person or a single company behind this open source software, it is a real ecosystem. So we have a large open source developers community, which is maintaining the existing software building blocks and standards and developing new ones. And we have a large group of startups as well as global corporates like NEC who are using this technology and providing smart solutions and services based on FIWARE. And in this combination, the FIWARE ecosystem is able to provide the lowest cost of end user, the lowest cost of ownership to the end users. And another value proposition, and maybe this is even more important, By providing and using standard, public and royalty-free data models and open APIs, we are avoiding the so-called vendor lock-in effect. And this is very, very important for a lot of the end users. Yeah, and this is FIWARE, the open source platform technology for our smart digital future. And with this, Tuck, handing over back to you.
All right, thank you, Ulrich, for the excellent presentation. And we'll come back to your point and discuss later. Let's move on to Seki-san's presentation now.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Well, can you see my slide?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you for inviting me to this excellent session. I'm Hal Seki from Code of Japan, and I'm gonna share about one of our activity. It's called Make Our City project, and we are going to create a citizen-centered city with digital technology. Let me introduce myself. I have been working as a software developer more than 20 years ago, and I started my company GeoRepublic 10 years ago. And after that, I started to build a new organization called Code for Japan for promoting civic tech in Japan. And right now, and also I started working for a digital agency in Japan as a project manager. And today we are talking about the Code for Japan activity. Code for Japan is a civic tech community. And our vision is to build a society by thinking and creating together with diverse people. Now, such a society requires a safe place that makes it possible. We encourage individuals to think, act, and connect on their own that trust. So we are creating communities where people can openly connect and create their ideal society. It is essential to think about what kind of society do we want. Our community is not only for IT engineers. It requires a wide range. It recruits a wide range of people, including the government people, students, and NPOs, or businesses and students. And then we promote to start projects to make a prototype and test the concept and implement the ideas as a sustainable services. One of our focusing areas is Make Our City project. It is a challenge to redefine a smart city concept by citizen participation. But why do we need to redefine this smart city concept? In Japan, many smart city projects are happening in several cities, but most of them are testbed projects planned by municipalities or enterprise companies. Also, local or national governments tend to pay for fancy tech solutions like autonomous cars or drone deliveries or health tech and so on. Many smart city projects are appealing efficiency, convenience, or productivity. But is it true? I believe that the purpose of city planning is a citizens' well-being. Focusing efficiency too much may harm the citizen's sense of well-being, I think. For avoiding such misdirection, we started the Make Our City project. We improve students' well-being through citizen-centered city planning. Starting from myself, we are developing a platform for prototyping with diverse citizens and researching our data-driven decision-making process. We are also providing citizen participatory city planning methods to the local government. Currently, we are running 2 projects for 3 municipals and 1 project with Smart City Institute Japan. And let me introduce this the FIWARE in this presentation. Let me skip this dim part. And as Ulrich mentioned about the FIWARE as an open source technology, we are building a new data sharing platform based on FIWARE platform. FIWARE has become the de facto standard for smart cities in EU, so that we choose that platform. And also, of course, that is open source, and we want to build the digital commons on that platform. And we are building our data platform as an open system. Cities can use the Makeover city data platform with other cities and share the usage costs. Also, we will help cities with creating data standard among the cities. So before enabling this kind of data platform, cities A or B have to build their services by themselves independently. But with our data platform, each cities can share our platform and also share data. And also companies can build their services on this platform, and so that each cities can use that services. This page is already explained before, so I will skip this. And maybe and developers, if some developers are listening this session, maybe this is interest. So the developers can easily use our platform by using REST APIs. So they can create devices and read and update data through this kind of HTTPS requests. We started this project in Hamamatsu City this year as a testbed project. And right now, 7 companies are using the data platform and creating their services. And we provide monthly study sessions for the local communities. And this year, Code for Japan joined to FIWARE Foundation and currently studying overseas projects and technologies as well. And working with NEC, Toyota Mobility Foundation, and Smart City Institute Japan, and AWS, etc., and domestic partners. I believe that I believe that the activation of the developer community is necessary to promote FIWARE in Japan. Many cities will use FIWARE-based platform near future. I hope we can provide good experimental fields for the developers and the companies that would like to make the cities better place. But we just started our journey, so there are still a lot of unanswered questions. So how can we involve the citizens widely, or the citizen participation process requires a lot of work by municipal officials, so that we have to help them, or how to create a safe space for constructive discussions, or what kind of topics is applicable for this kind of projects, or in this platform, is this platform sustainable? Who pays for this kind of digital infrastructures? So yeah, So that's is maybe my question to this session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Seki-san, for the excellent presentation. So let's move on to discussion time. So everyone just come back. Ulrich and Mochizuki-san. So we're going to have an open discussion, and this is a free format discussion. Anyone can ask any question to anyone, right? Anyone is okay to answer the question. And before I begin my kind of entry level questions, I would like to have first feedback comments from Mochizuki-san, since Mochizuki-san has been working with FIWARE for years and aware of the situation both in Europe and Japan. So any comments, Mochizuki-san?
Yeah, perhaps a comment to Ulrich is that Ulrich touched a little bit upon FIWARE not just for cities, but also rural area. But I think this is already the case for many of the municipalities in Japan, because many Japanese municipalities went through what's called a municipal merger, say several years ago or 10 years ago. And even for municipalities having, hundreds of thousands of populations, many municipalities do see urban issues. At the same time, their management area also includes rural area. So when we talk about smart cities and improve the citizens' well-being, it has immediately a lot of questions or problems that we should solve for the people living in rural area. That's the comments. Some features I can point out for Japanese cities or municipalities. And Seki-san's Makeover cities and programs really, I feel honored to be working together with Code for Japan for this initiative. What I can point out is that, it's the financial sustainability is a matter of chicken and egg. If the value is proven, there'll be more players to join and perhaps the financial leverage. But how to demonstrate this value or problem solving is the first step issue. But at the same time, particularly those the public sector people tend to think that piloting is okay, but they really want to move into the real business level service delivery, leveraging such data platform. But my personal opinion is piloting, yes, is really important to first learn how to create value out of it. And that's actually also what's written in the document published by the city of Vienna, which has recently built a central data platform of the city. But the conclusion first says that if they had not worked on several use cases before, they say they would not be able to design and implement the central data platforms. It is actually the city's data team who wrote that document, and although it is in English, I think it is a very good lesson if there's anybody here coming from the public sector. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Mochizuki-san. And for viewers, it's a time for you to raise your questions and make comments. So we are open to any comments. We have so far two comments. We'll come back to them a little bit later. And I have to begin with the very entry-level question because not all of the viewers are familiar with FIWARE or even smart cities, right? So just watching the presentation by Ulrich and Seki-san, some people may be under the impression that implementing FIWARE is very easy as buying smartphones somewhere. But in reality, you really have to learn something, right, to implement. So would you describe how easy or how challenging is that to implement FIWARE? How long does it take? How many people do you need to educate? What's the requirements to implement FIWARE? Maybe Ulrich first.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, what we as FIWARE Foundation are providing are just building blocks, yeah, software building blocks, APIs, data models, and so on. And this requires a certain amount of IT competence and also some capabilities to create a complete new smart city platform, for example, out of it, or a new smart waste management, smart lighting, smart parking solution. To create a complete smart city platform, I'd say a team of 10 people would need several months at least to do so, to bring all these building blocks together, to do the integration, to have it tested, to install it on an infrastructure. And this can be done by end users directly, but this work has been done by companies like NEC already. They started with this, I don't know, Yasunori, you might know better, 2, 3, 4 years ago to do so and replicate this now to the cities. But although it's open source, it still requires a certain amount of effort to put these building blocks together. Also, when you build, let's say, a nice house out of Lego stones, and just give me a feedback. Lego stones are familiar in Japan also, I think. Oh, yeah. It takes some time to put together all these stones and to build the building or the vehicle you're going to play with. And this is similar to FIWARE. It is not rocket science. Yeah, so people with a normal IT background are able to do so and to learn it, how to do it, but it still needs some efforts. And at least what I see in cities in Europe is that they quite often don't have sufficient know-how nor sufficient capacities to do this themselves. And this is the question of building and implementing it. The other question is then to operate such a solution. Yeah, at least in Europe, in a lot of cities, we have passed the phase of piloting, and there are a lot of cities where it is a standard platform, where it is a standard thing like, sorry, like water management or electricity. So the digital infrastructure within a city becomes standard. And also here, certain capabilities are required. So, for example, know-how in Kubernetes, for those of you who are more technology focused, to efficiently being able to operate such a platform. Now, this is a try to answer your question.
Yeah, yes, thank you very much. Yeah, it clarifies. Okay. And before moving on to the same question to Seki-san, let me just give you a follow-up question, Ulrich. So if let's assume Japanese city, one of the Japanese cities implementing smart city, is interested in learning from somewhere in Europe, the cities in Europe implemented FIWARE. So which city do you think would be a good example for the Japanese cities who wish to implement FIWARE? Don't avoid the Spanish or German speaking city, because we can actually read the German or Spanish text, but the English speaking, hopefully, city that exemplify the implementation.
So English speaking, we have only one country in in Europe which is speaking English. Yeah, right. That's the UK. And here definitely, I mentioned the city Bristol would be a good example to talk to. But in most of the IT projects, also in other European cities, English is not a problem. Also, and countries which are really developed in digitization are, for example, cities and countries in the Netherlands, like cities like Utrecht, for example, or as I mentioned, Eindhoven in the example I showed, but also Spain really belongs to the top 5 countries in Europe when it comes to digitization of public services. And here cities like Santander definitely belong to the lighthouse cities in Europe, or in Austria, Vienna, for example. These are clearly excellent cities, and there is an opportunity now, obviously too late and maybe too far. Next week there will be the Smart City Expo World Congress in Barcelona, and a lot of these cities will be there and will be available also for knowledge exchange, for first contacts. It is one of the world leading events on digitization of farming, of cities and regions. And I personally visited, I think, 2 or even 3 times the Smart City Expo in Kyoto. Before Corona, it took place. The first one was organized by the Fair of Barcelona. So it was a satellite event. And then it was organized within Japan. But that was a more Japanese event, but definitely getting into contact to world-leading smart cities. There, the Smart City Expo in Barcelona is a very good opportunity. If some of the visitors here today are so flexible to be able to visit the event next week in Barcelona, just contact me. We are an exhibitor there. We have quite a big booth with more than 200 square meters. And we have also entry tickets we could give away to our guests. So if someone should be interested, just let me know.
All right, go ahead, Mochizuki-san.
Thanks. Actually, yeah, if you really want to, physically speak to the European cities, yeah, Nagumo-san's suggestion would be correct. But if you're just happy to read some articles together with each city's context, I do strongly recommend you to visit FIWARE's webpage, which has a section called FIWARE Impact Stories. And this collects a lot of city use cases, actually not only smart cities. There are lots of good readings. For instance, I enjoyed reading how they implemented the city app in Florence in Italy. And Malaga is also a citizen-centric app. So if you're happy to read English article as a first step, I strongly advise you to take a look at FIWARE Impact Story session. It's easily found with the thanks, Ulrich, for putting this in the chat.
All right. So yeah, for the past 2 years, we missed the Barcelona's Smart City Expo opportunities due to the COVID-19. 2 years ago, Mochizuki-san and I were there actually, and it's a magnificent place. It's a biggest smart city show on earth, I guess. And hopefully next year, maybe 6 and 2, we could go to Barcelona to attend the World Expo. And maybe we can have a joint session, Ulrich, with Japanese examples and the European examples and so forth. Right. And let's move on to Seki-san. So in your case, in our case, I would say, we are supporting the Hamamatsu city for capacity building, by providing, the educational session and so forth. So how do you describe, the time and energy needed to install FIWARE in the cities in Japan?
So, yeah, for installing FIWARE in the city, and we had to find the use cases. at first. But as Mochizuki-san says, so doing the testing field, making testing field is also useful to collect use cases, so that we started to organize the learning sessions with potential companies who want to use the FIWARE or systems. So, and collect the ideas from the companies, and make a one-on-one session with the companies, and hear why they want to use the FIWARE, and what kind of data they can provide to the ecosystems, so that we understand the willingness of the data usage. And after that, we started to the prototyping period, and started to provide FIWARE systems. But still, also we have not complete systems, so to provide them the every functions like dashboard systems or authentication systems or so on. It was difficult to build a whole systems for cities, because it is the building blocks, like Ulrich said. So we also continuously developing our platform itself for adapting the company's use cases. So I think that kind of agile methodology is really important to build the foundation systems, and also the service level systems.
Thank you very much. And so now in Japan, we have Toyama City, Takamatsu City, Kakogawa City, and Hamamatsu is coming as a fourth one, right? And coming back to Seki-san's comment, and maybe Ulrich also touched upon, so building ecosystem, the community of the practitioners, so to speak, is very important to expand the use of the FIWARE. Once many cases are born in let's say in Japan, we have multiple use cases that can be referenced by various others, and then accelerate the growth of the implementation. So what's the situation in Europe in terms of creating the FIWARE ecosystem or community?
Yeah, maybe two inputs on this. First, we have in our ecosystem an instrument to facilitate this, and these are the so-called FIWARE iHubs, the innovation hubs. These are local centers where people can get a hands-on experience with FIWARE, where they can do first sand beds or test beds, simply getting experience with FIWARE. These iHubs are working locally together with universities to also bring FIWARE technology into the university programs. They are working together with local startups, also some of them doing incubation services, helping startups to do business based on FIWARE. And in the meantime, we have 26 of these FIWARE iHubs globally, not only in Europe. We just recently announced, I think last week or early this week, another 5 also in Morocco, in Brazil, additional ones in Europe. And this is it is a kind of catalyst to create such local ecosystems. Or another example, on Monday of this week, I've been in Vienna, for a meeting of the local Austrian FIWARE ecosystem. So it was really a physical meeting, not via web meeting. People came together. We had, I think, 30 people from different regions in Austria. Austria is a small country, yeah. Coming together, people from cities, but also people from service companies. So people from Microsoft, from Atos were there, and talking about their experiences, their deployments, their benefits they are creating based on FIWARE technology. So these local ecosystems are very, very important for us, and we are supporting the creation and also the maintenance of this ecosystems. And that's why, for example, I Monday and informed about had the dialogue with the people there.
Thank you very much. It's interesting. So FIWARE Innovation Hub seems to be instrumental in expanding the community. And just a follow-up question, is that something like an accelerator program, I would say?
Yeah, we have an acceleration program in parallel to this. And some of the iHubs are using this acceleration program. And in this overall acceleration program, we are bringing together startups which are using FIWARE technology to create solutions and services for their end customers, and bringing these startups together with investors, doing a matchmaking, and with this providing also financing to the startups and help them to grow. So it's a kind of incubation process we are supporting here.
I see.
And we have quite a long experience in supporting startups in the FIWARE history. We have several hundred startups who received, in that case, public funding, equity-free funding, to develop their FIWARE-based solutions and bring them to the market. And therefore, we do have a really vibrant startup ecosystem, in this case, mainly in Europe, because eligible for this funding were only startups which are headquartered in Europe. Now, it was funding provided by the European Commission out of European taxpayers' money.
Oh, I see. Thank you very much. Mochizuki-san, please.
Yeah, if I may just add, it's my personal feeling, understanding that besides European countries put public funding on the implementation of digital platform or digitalization mechanism, for ecosystem growth, I think there are also available public funding for startups. And of course, Ulrich elaborated the accelerator program, but not just talking about the money coming from the European Union. Looks like nation level or the municipality level seems to put funding for startups and such, or the necessary mechanisms, including the venture capitals and the social entrepreneurs, which support startups. And this looks like some mechanism that are starting to make things moving forward. And these are connected with the context of smart cities. In Japan, the government and the public sector also funds startups, but not necessarily, connected with public sector requirements or opportunities.
Yeah, but Yasunori, you are right. For example, when I visited Jakarta and experienced my first earthquake in my life. There I also had several meetings with startups from Indonesia, and FIWARE provides really an excellent technology and enable startups to create smart solutions based on this technology to reuse all the development which has been done, and just to combine this Lego stones, as I mentioned before, and be quite quick with creating digital solutions. Still, it is an effort. Still, you need some know-how to do so. But maybe to give you one example, before the 4 organizations who created the FIWARE Foundation 5 years ago invested into this creation, they asked one of the most renowned organizations scientific organizations in Germany, the Fraunhofer Institute, to do an analysis of the software which was created so far, so these building blocks. And one of the feedbacks Fraunhofer gave was they compared the effort to create a hazard warning solution. It is called CATWARN, so a warning system for catastrophes to the citizens, which was created by Fraunhofer from scratch using traditional methodologies. They said, when we would have had access to FIWARE technology earlier, the creation of this system would have been 8 times faster than it took us to do so. So this is, I think, a good example of how productive it is to create solutions based on FIWARE technology. And this is very interesting for a lot of startups looking for ways to implement their business ideas and their strategies.
8 times faster because of the Lego building block structure, right?
Yeah, I think the funding to open source and open standards technology is really important, because as Yasunori-san said, Japanese government has been spending a lot of taxes to the startups or companies in the smart city field. But if that funding is to contribute to the open source, even if the test bed is suspended, that open source and something that they developed can survive as open source technologies, and communities can reuse that lesson.
Yeah, and this is very, very important for an open source community, not only to use open source building blocks to create your own solution, but to support in further developing these building blocks, and also to contribute back to the community. Yeah, it is a give and take in an open source community, and this is very important, to create this atmosphere, this culture within the given ecosystem.
So it's almost like a publisher is bankrupted, but the library is open. Yeah. Then let me go back to the innovation hub item, which I think is interesting. And my question might be headed to Mochizuki-san. Have we ever thought about implementing innovation hub idea in Japan?
Yes, I'm very much interested in that right now. And when the iHub started, the first model was in Malaga, where the city and Telefonica started collaboration and invited academia and civic tech people to make a really good activity. But now the FIWARE iHub has grown, and looks like there are variations in the way each iHub is working. For instance, a small city in France, they created a new iHub in Saint-Quentin. And what's interesting is in Netherlands, instead of building just one iHub, they are kind of collaborating a little bit more in a spread way. They used to call it FIWARE iHub Netherlands, but they renamed it to Future City Foundation. So after seeing that, because in Japan, cities tend to be open to work together with other cities. I'm just wondering what would be the best way to leverage each city's experience. I mean, not too much confined into one region or city, but to be able to share the practice. But after seeing many iHubs in the world is being built, I do see there must be a good way to leverage this iHub idea also in Japan.
I think we are moving on to that stage right now after some POCs and again, cities are now talking about interoperability.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many people are interested in technology, but another important fact about the FIWARE iHub is actually FIWARE iHub is also becoming a very important driver for the smart data model initiative, particularly for the Latin America contribution, right, Ulrich? So, because iHub is working on the real world problem, not just thinking about the standard API, but in order to be able to contribute to the data model stuff, iHub network is really useful, I do believe. I actually would love to hear something from Ulrich if you have the similar view or otherwise.
On the network of iHubs or?
Yeah, iHub's contribution to the smart data model initiative.
Yeah, they are intensively contributing to it. All this smart data model initiative is a very strong bottom-up driven approach, an end-user driven approach. And a lot of cities are organized within this FIWARE iHubs. So they are using the iHubs to contribute to the data models. We have a clear process how new data models are proposed to the process, then approved by the end users in the process before they are published. And here this network of iHubs as a combination of cities are playing a large role. And we have a so-called mission support committee, which is a kind of umbrella organization on top of all the iHubs, making sure that between the iHubs there is a knowledge exchange, that they are able to share experiences, to share solutions. And actually this iHubs committee is chaired by two people. One is from Morocco and the other one is from Buenos Aires in Argentina. Yeah. So it is really in the meantime a global organization, not only in Europe. It started in Europe, but in the meantime it's really a global organization, and hopefully one day also in Japan.
Yeah.
I'd like to contribute to establish the iHubs in Japan, because we are not only developers but also community organizers. So I think we can contribute to startup.
Very good.
Sounds like a plan. So we need iHub Japan, right? And we need to find out 10 cities in Japan who can be a fast runner smart cities, just like you guys had in Europe, right? So fast runner smart city using FIWARE Japan, something like that, right?
Yeah, that's good. But as I said, iHub's top priority target is to make something nice to happen in a region, right? So each iHub should basically work for respective region to make good things happen or good ecosystem grow. But as a result, there will be some low-hanging fruits of starting to make the shared data models by working together.
I see. Yeah. So for the remaining time, let me focus on the questions around this. All right, no one left behind, right? So first one is from Mr. Leo Osako. Osako-san, thank you very much. Thank you for the insightful presentation, interesting use cases. Are there any public case studies for FIWARE where data sets from diverse industries, example, mobility, retail, finance, were combined to create new services or seamless experiences in smart cities?
Yeah, let me take this. And there's maybe one. There are several examples. First of all, start with this. One example is you may have heard, because it is very famous, that we in Berlin built a new airport, and it took us just 6 or 7 years to finally open it. You might have heard that it took quite a long time. And after opening the new airport in Berlin, the old airport, the airport Tegel, was taken out of operation, and a complete new city quarter will be created on the area of the former airport Tegel. There will be more than 1,000 apartments built there using wood to build these apartments. There will be a new industry area, and the whole integration platform, not only for the smart city topics, but also for the smart energy topics, for the mobility topics, will be one FIWARE-based platform. And another example is what was launched 4 weeks ago at the ITS World Congress, which took place this time in Hamburg in Germany, is the so-called mobility data space. This mobility data space, and here we support it only from FIWARE. We brought in some technology. It's not completely based on FIWARE, but it is connected to FIWARE. And we support it with 2 use cases. One is a smart parking use case together with the city of Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg is a city where Volkswagen is headquartered. And another use case is a digital twin of a so-called mobility station. So here, smart city topics and mobility topics came together. And one, for me, really exciting example is the smart parking use case or implementation in Wolfsburg, which, and you know, smart parking, traditionally, you install sensors on the different parking lots or install cameras to identify either via a sensor or via a camera whether a parking spot is occupied or not, and provide this information to an app or into the navigation system in the car. And this mobility data space now enables to also get access to additional sources of the question, where are free parking lots? And here, Mercedes-Benz, so Daimler, they approved to provide their sensor data coming from the cars. Similar as Japanese cars, also Mercedes cars have the, at least the high-class cars, have the ability to autonomously park. So you can get out of your car and the car is parking autonomously into a sufficient large parking lot. And to identify this sufficient large parking lots, the cars have radar sensors. When you are driving along the street, the sensors are identifying available parking lots and measure them, how big they are. And Mercedes now approved to provide this information coming from the cars onto the mobility data space to be used in smart parking solutions in different cities. So this means the smart parking solution is not only limited to the data generated via sensors and cameras, but this data can be enhanced by data coming from the cars driving around the city. And this, I think, is a good example where a FIWARE-based solution is not only used in smart city, but also in smart mobility. And there are different other examples where cross-domain interchange is used. And maybe, Tak, if you allow me, I can just answer to one of the last questions here, which asked, what is the difference between FIWARE and Gaia-X? And Gaia-X is much larger than FIWARE. So Gaia-X is a stack which is starting at the very low level of IT infrastructure, is creating a so-called federated cloud infrastructure. So not cloud services which are coming from private cloud providers from the so-called hyperscalers, but a cloud solution which is provided by different players because all are playing according to the same rules and providing cloud services. And FIWARE is only setting up on top of these services. So GaiaX is addressing a much larger technology stack. We are focusing on this data management level, what is called within the GaiaX framework, the data spaces. And here, FIWARE is an integral part of GaiaX because we are providing technologies, we are providing standards like APIs, like data models to create interoperable data spaces. And this interoperability is of utmost importance for the support of business processes which will be managed across different data spaces. And there will be a data space for mobility, a data space for cities, a data space for energy. And these data spaces need to be able to work together, to collaborate. And here, FIWARE contributes standards and technologies to GaiaX. So it is a bit, I wouldn't use the word overlapping. It is collaboration in part of these activities, but FIWARE is not addressing the whole technology stack of GaiaX.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have one question left, and let me read that for you from Iha-san. Thank you very much, Iha-san. Thank you very much for your presentation. I understand the benefits of integrating different data through standard APIs. My question is, would existing databases systems be required to be refurbished, edited, reconstructed in order to be able to fit the API? I believe the extent of refurbishment would greatly depend on different systems, but generally, would that require a lot of engineering workload? Also, would that require significant change in their as-is process, i.e., would it require a lot of training to operators of current system databases?
I could answer to this, but maybe I start with an answer. The answer is, it depends. It definitely depends on the existing system, on the technology, but also on the policy of the owner of the existing systems. I give you two examples. For one example, I will not mention the provider of this system. It is quite a well-known smart city platform, but not open source, it's closed source. And this provider says, I'm more than open to support NGSI as a standard interface, but I will not change our data models because this is a value proposition we see for our company and also our end users. So we are not willing to change our data models. Another example where I am able to name the company because we have published this cooperation is with SAP. Also a closed source technology. So SAP is not open source, but we have implemented a collaboration between FIWARE and SAP, implementing a so-called system of systems approach. And here SAP was open to not only support NGSI LD, but also to use the standard data models we talked about before, so this smart data models, and implement this in their HANA system. Of course, it is some effort to do, but to be able to create interoperable solutions which are able to work together, you need to agree and accept certain standards. And if you don't have these standards actually implemented in your system, it will take some effort. And how much effort it is depends really on the system. In the case of SAP, it was quite easy because SAP is prepared to implement different data models. And we did this In the first case, together with the city of Heidelberg in Germany. So it's a mid-sized city in Germany where we created a smart waste management solution. The waste containers are equipped with sensors. The sensors are attached to the FIWARE platform. And then we are providing this information from FIWARE to SAP. And in SAP, the work order for the waste trucks and the route optimization for the work trucks is done based on common data models, common APIs. So this is a try to give a feeling for an answer to this question. It is very difficult to answer in a general way.
All right, thank you very much. Actually, we're running out of the time right now. So as a closing, I would like to thank three of you for participation and contribution. And I would like to ask each one of you to make a final comment, just in brief. So starting from Mochizuki-san, Seki-san, finally to Ulrich, and then close the session. So Mochizuki-san.
Yes, it's maybe 3 years since cities in Japan started trying or testing or at least implementing FIWARE, and there has been good things coming out, and I'm really happy to see, Code for Japan also started working together, and together with several other companies, actually another company called TIS. So, and also the interest on FIWARE is now rapidly growing in cities and also private sector players. And what's really important is that we work together locally and also globally to create value by working together. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the discussion today.
Thank you, Mochizuki-san. Seki-san, please.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to this kind of the very great collaboration. And I'm really happy to be here and to discuss how to enable the communities of the FIWARE in Japan. I think I would like to invite more people, more developers in this field. So using this kind of open standards, small size company can join this kind of smart city development. Without this FIWARE Foundation, FIWARE technologies, maybe it was difficult to collaborate. Code for Japan and NEC, such a big company, can work together in this kind of the smart city field. So I want to involve more diverse communities in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seki-san. So Ulrich, final words.
Yeah, also thank you very much from my side for inviting me on the evening in Japan. It has been proven that FIWARE technology is able to help citizens, help cities in their digital transformation journey all over the world, be it in Europe, be it in India, in Africa. So there are a lot of activities also in the sub-Sahara zone in Africa. And I'm convinced that this technology will also be of benefit, not only the technology, but also the standards be of benefit for the cities and rural regions in Japan. And therefore, I highly appreciate that the FIWARE ecosystem initiated by NEC as one of the really first movers here is growing in Japan. And I'm really looking forward to visit Japan again. I think I've been 3 times during my FIWARE time in Japan, not only in Tokyo, but also in Osaka, in Kyoto. I really appreciated Kyoto, and looking forward to come back to Japan to talk to nice people and also to enjoy your excellent food, which I had the pleasure to experience during my stays there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mochizuki-san, Seki-san, Ulrich. This closes our session. Okay, Kudo-san.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, gentlemen, thank you very much for your great presentation and discussion. I really enjoyed it. And also, as Ulrich said, yes, we would welcome you to come to Japan. And I think that the time is approaching, that timing is approaching very soon. So thank you very much for joining our webinar today. And before we conclude, I'd like to just quickly show you our programs for the upcoming programs. So thank you for viewing today. And for the viewers, please cooperate with our questionnaires after the event. You will receive it. And also our future programs will be available on Smart City Institute Japan's Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And also they are available on our website. And past videos, including today, can be viewed on Smart City Institute Japan YouTube channel. And today was the second day of European Smart City Inspired Week. And tomorrow, we will have again the city of Tampere to talk about the data-driven city. And we invite 3 guest speakers from city of Tampere in Finland. And also Friday, there was a discussion on Barcelona city. And we are going to invite the commissioner of the Barcelona City Council, Mr. Michael Donaldson. And he will be speaking on Friday. So please stay tuned. And the following week, next week, we have Estonia week from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. And topics like cybersecurity, data exchange infrastructure like X-Road, and also digital ID. And we will touch upon internet voting. And we will have guest speakers from Estonia called the E-Governance Academy, which is a leading consulting firm NPO in Estonia. And this is about Smart City Institute Japan, and we have 480 members, and the number is still growing. And also we have global partner organizations like FIWARE Foundation with Ulrich today. So again, thank you very much for viewing today, and we hope to see you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow and next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.